Welcome back to Bible Studies with Russ. We are doing this today through Google Meet. I was using a different program before, and I think I've just about had enough messing with it. So we're doing it today through Google Meet, and we'll probably do our interactive class this way from now on, just because it's simpler for me. Um, this also will be made available, though, afterwards on our podcast page and also um, on the YouTube channel as well. And so here you can usually see the outline for today for Judges 19. I know we talked about some things last time, but this is just a way to let you see the entire outline for chapter 19, and then we'll get to chapter 20 a little bit today as well. Chapter 19, 1 through 9, you have the trip to Bethlehem. Verses 10 through 21, you have the stopover in Gibeah. Again, I'm sure there's different ways to say these towns and things, but I'm notorious for saying them wrong. So if I say it one way and you've heard it a different way, don't be don't be shocked. Verses 22 through 26 is an attack by the Gibeahites, and then 27 through 30 reaction to the atrocity. Now we're going to go ahead and get into it today, and let's go ahead and look at Judges chapter 19. I'm going to move over here to our Bible program. All right. Judges chapter 19, beginning in verse 22. We're going to go through here through verse 26. 22 through 26 says, and as they were enjoying themselves, suddenly certain men of the city, perverted men, surrounded the house and beat on the door. They spoke to the master of the house, the old man, saying, bring out the man who came to your house, we may know him carnally. But the man, the master of the house, went out to them and said to them, no, my brethren, I beg you not to act so wickedly. Seeing seeing this man has come into my house, do not commit this outrage. Let's read just through verse 24. Actually, we're going to break this up just a little bit here today. Try to anyway. 22 through 24. So let's look at verse 24 now. Look, here's my virgin daughter and the man's concubine. Let me bring them out now. Humble them and do with them as you please, but not to this man. Do not do such a vile thing. Okay, that's 22 through 24. Now, the thing to remember is that this is not talking about, what we're talking about here is not condoning anything or any actions or any responses. What we find here in this chapter and in the next really are just an account of how wicked things had become. These people were not following God. They did not have a king. They weren't. Joshua is dead. The elders that served with Joshua are dead. And so we're seeing just how vile they had become. There was no leadership or guidance for them to do what is right. They're just doing whatever they want to do. And we find here in verse 22 and following how bad it had gotten. So look at verses 22 through 24. We find that their evening was interrupted by a pounding on the doors. The men of the city, the sons of Beel. I believe here the King James has, the sons of Beel. Again, I'm probably mispronouncing that. Strong's defines this word. Strong's defines the word this way. So, certain sons of Beel, which means Beel means wicked, ungodly, evil, naughty, or ungodly men. Then you list some other things here that say, maybe I'll see a little bit on your screen. It says worthlessness, worthless, good for nothing, unprofitable, base fellow, wicked, ruin, destruction. And those are the terms used to describe the certain sons, the certain men that came to their door. That's the description that is used. That's why the sons of Beel, these wicked people, as one commentator says, the worthless fellows. Here it says base fellow, worthless, good for nothing. That's the kind of people who are coming there. And so what's happening? They're being surrounded by these kinds of men. And what are they wanting to do? They're wanting to know this man's house guest carnally. They're wanting to know him carnally there in verse 22 through 24. The master of the house went out to them and said to them, nay, my brethren, nay, I pray you do not do so wickedly, seeing that this man is coming to my house. Do not this folly. The New King James says here, do not commit this outrage. Verse 24, he says, look, here's my virgin daughter. What? That's what he says. Here's my virgin daughter and the man's concubine. So here's my virgin daughter and my guest concubine. Let me bring them out now, humble them, and do with them as you please, but not to this man. Do not do such a vile thing. How crazy is that? That they're doing this wickedness, they're doing this evil there in verses 22 through 24. And their response is, "Don't harm our guest. Here, take my virgin daughter and his concubine." This is a very, very dark, dark time. Very wicked, very vile. Um, I think you could say all these men were pretty worthless, um, pretty much base fellows, as the definition of that term is used there. Looking at verse 25 and 26, but the men would not heed him. So the men took his concubine and brought her out. So the man took his concubine and brought her out to them, and they knew her and abused her all night until morning, when the day began to break, to let her go. Then the woman came as the day was dawning and fell down at the door of the man's house where her master was, till it was light. Um, wow. So basically, as one commentator says here, he basically just takes his concubine and shoves her out the door and closes the door behind her, and they just do whatever they want. Wicked, wicked stuff. The Levite was as morally perverse, as this commentator says, the Levite was as morally perverse and insensitive as the old man and the mob. And when he saw that the mob would not listen to the old man, he seized his concubine and shoved her out the door. Accepting this sacrifice of their perverted lust, the man of Gibeah showed no further interest in the old man or his guests. They raped the woman and abused her all night long. At the approach of dawn, they released her. She staggered to the door of the house and fell. And as we see in chapter 20, we'll find out that she really did breathe her last. She died there. How sad it is. Okay, let's look now at verse 27 through 30. 27 through 30. It says here, when her master arose in the morning and opened the doors of the house and went out to go his way, there was his concubine falling at the door of the house with her hands on the threshold. I'm not convinced, if you look at verse 27, that he was really going to go out and look for her. The Bible says there in verse 27, when he came out of the house, when he opened the doors of the house and went out to go his way, which indicates he's leaving. The Bible doesn't say that he was going to go out and look for her. Maybe he was, but it says here he went out to go his way, which means he was going home. Was he going to look for her? I'm not sure. And went out to go his way, as King James says. What's American Standard say? Opened the door of the house and went out to go his way. It doesn't really give any indication that he was actually going to go out to look for her. But there she was anyway. She's fallen at the door of the house, verse 27, with her hands on the threshold. Verse 28, and he said to her, "Get up." Look how he's treating her. He said to her, "Get up and let us be going." But there was no answer. So the man lifted her onto the donkey, and the man got up and went to his place. It's safe to say for this man and his concubine, he was treating her like a possession. And like a slave. I mean, if you look back here in verse 26, isn't that what it says? Verse 27, when her master rose in the morning. No, that's not the one I'm looking for. Where her master was, verse 26, right? Master-slave relationship. That was his concubine. Some men treated their concubines better than others. Now, concubine was an Old Testament thing that happened that we do not find anywhere in the New Testament. But nonetheless, he had a concubine, and he just lifts her up, puts her on the back of his donkey, and goes on to his home. Verse 29, when he entered his house, he took a knife, laid hold of his concubine, and divided her into 12 pieces, limb by limb, and sent her throughout all the territory of Israel. And so it was that all who saw it said, no such deed has been done or seen from the day that the children of Israel came up from the land of Egypt until this day. Consider it, confer, and speak up. Verse 30. So early in the morning, the Levite rose to continue his journey. He saw the crumpled body of his concubine on the door. Just doesn't really think much about it, it seems. The crime of Gibeah illustrates the depths of the moral depravity to which many of the Israelites quickly had fallen after the death of Joshua and the elders of his generation. Hosea regarded this outrageous sin as the standards by which to measure all other depraved acts. Hosea 9, verse 9. It was so bad, he says, that Hosea used it as a standard for how bad things were. When something was morally evil, he compared to this. or incredibly evil he compared to this. See, that's how bad this event was. You saw in this narrative the initial act of apostasy after Israel entered Canaan, chapter 10, verse 9 of Hosea. This chapter, taken together with the one which follows, however, also illustrates the divine law of sowing and reaping. The woman who played the harlot died by being sexually abused. The Levite who sacrificed his spouse to save his honor lost her altogether. The men of Gibeah, along with thousands in their tribe who condoned their actions, died in a war of retribution. And so, again, just wicked stuff happening here. Okay, let's look at our outline for chapter 20. Our outline for chapter 20. The title we have here is Disunity Illustrated for the entire chapter, 1 through 48. Disunity Illustrated. Then we have the assembly, verses 1 through 10. You have the positions, verses 11 through 17. You have the battles, verses 18 through 35. And then you have the victory, verses 36 through 46 of Judges chapter 20. So there's your outline. I'm also going to place this outline. It's going to be in PowerPoint, but this outline on our Google classroom page for Bible Studies of the Rust, which I'm going to place that link in the Facebook group Bible Studies of the Rust for those who are interested. If you want to be in the Facebook group or you want to be in the Google Classroom class entitled Bible Studies of the Rust, you just send me an email through our website, BibleWayMedia.org. On the contact page, just go in there and put, I want to be in the Google Classroom group, because I think moving forward, that's where I'm going to do all the live studies. It's just so much easier than messing with what I was doing before. And so a lot less troublesome. Okay, let's get to Judges chapter 20 now. Okay, Judges chapter 20. And looking here at verses 1 through 48, one commentator has this to say about chapter 20. He says, the moral perversity of the men of Gibeah set in motion a chain of events which drove a wedge between the tribes. The bloodshed was narrowly averted in the days of Joshua chapter 22, and it became a bloody reality shortly after his death. Okay, let's look at Judges chapter 20. We're going to look at just the first 10 verses, and they're going to be done for today. Judges chapter 20, looking here in verses 1 through 3. So the children of Israel came out from Dan to Beersheba, as well as from the land of Gilead, and the congregation gathered together as one man before the Lord at Mizpah. And the leaders of all the people, all the tribes of Israel, presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 foot soldiers who drew the sword. Now the children of Benjamin heard that the children of Israel had gone up to Mizpah. And the children of Israel said, tell us, how did this wicked deed happen? Okay, so we find here what's happening, right? Everybody is called together from Dan to Beersheba, from Gilead, as well as the sons of Israel assembled as one man in Mizpah. The tribal chiefs took their stand in the assembly of the people. Some 400,000 swordsmen were present. We see here that one tribe, Benjamin, was not present or not represented. By failing to appear, the Benjamites were signaling that they were siding with the men at Gibeah. So the unity of Israel here is directed against one of their own tribes. 3 times the author seems to lament the tragedy of the whole situation by noting that the united tribes and the Benjamites were brothers, as we find there in verses 1 through 3. Okay, so looking at the latter part of verse 3, the children of Israel said, tell us, how did this wicked deed happen? From that portion of verse 3 down through verse 6 is where we're going to look at for the next section here. Then the children of Israel said, tell us, how did this wicked deed happen? Verse 4, so the Levite, the husband of the woman who was murdered, answered and said, my concubine and I went to Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin, to spend the night. And the men of Gibeah rose against me and surrounded the house at night because of me. They intended to kill me, but instead they ravished my concubine so that she died. So I took my concubine, cut her in pieces, and sent her throughout all the territory of the inheritance of Israel, because they committed lewdness and outrage in Israel. So the assembly requested from the Levite a first-hand report of what had happened in that night in Gibeah. The Levite rehearsed the dreadful details of the event, being careful to place his own despicable conduct in the best possible light, saying they wanted it. How did he do that? saying they wanted to kill me. So what I do, I gave them my concubine, who they killed instead. He alleged that the men in Gibeah intended to kill him, though the narrative of the previous chapter does not state this explicitly or clearly. The Levite's probably not exaggerating when he states that his life was in jeopardy. His gruesome butchery of the woman's corpse was justified in his mind by the magnitude of the sin committed against her by the Benjamites. They had committed a lewd and disgraceful act in Israel, verses 3 through 6. The word lewd denotes a sin so vile that the perpetrator must be cut off from the nation. Leviticus 18, verse 17, Leviticus 18, verse 29. Let's look at Leviticus 18 and verse 17. Leviticus 18, verse 17. You shall not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter, nor shall you take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter to uncover her nakedness. They are near of kin to her. It is wickedness. It is wickedness. Leviticus 18, verse 29. For whoever commits any of these abominations, the persons who commit them shall be cut off from among their people. There you have it. They'll be cut off. Okay. The word translated "shameful act" is a term used by the old man when he appealed to the men of Gibeah to abandon their sinful course. Going back to verse 23 of Judges chapter 19. You look at verse 7. He says, "Look, all of your children of Israel, give your advice and counsel here and now." So the shocking dismemberment of the corpse had accomplished what was intended to accomplish, namely the massing of the national assembly. Now the Levite called upon those assembled to give advice and counsel regarding the incident. Okay, verses 8 through 10, our final part for today. So all the people arose as one man, saying, None of us will go to his tent. None of us will go to his tent, nor will any turn back to his house. But now this is the thing which we will do to Gibeah. We will go up against it by lot. We will take 10 men out of Israel. We'll take 10 men out of every hundred throughout all the tribes of Israel, 100 out of every 1,000, and 1,000 out of every 10,000, to make provisions for the people, that when they come to Gibeah and Benjamin, they may repay all the vileness that they have done in Israel. So those assembled pledged not to return to their homes until a military campaign had been launched against Benjamin. Following the holy war traditions, they cast lots to set aside 10% of their number to serve as a quartermaster corps to provide food for the army. The others marched against Gibeah of Benjamin. Okay, so there we have it. We're going to stop there. And next time when we come back, we're going to be looking at the positions there as we look at verses 11 through 17, the positions, then the battles, 18 through 35, and then the victory, 36 through 46. Okay, we're going to stop there today. I do hope you've enjoyed this Bible study. Hope it's been encouraging to you. If you have an idea for the next study when we finish the book of Judges, you can let me know on the Facebook page, Bible Studies with Russ, or you can go to BibleWayMedia.org, and using the contact page, you can let me know through that form as well. I do thank you for being here with me today, and hope to see you again next time.